thousands of years, theater has been a part of society worldwide. While we don't know an exact number, thousands of plays and musicals have seen the Broadway stage in New York City. While those shows make their way around the nation after they close, there are so many local theaters around the world that put on famous shows that have seen the big stage year-round. These local theaters see plenty of patrons throughout the year, but are unable to compete with the large theaters in the bigger cities that host tours. Even though they may not be nationally known, the work that goes into putting on a show in a local theater is just as rigorous as any larger theater. My name is Matthew Zietlow, and I'm here at Sunset Playhouse in Elm Grove, Wisconsin, to see what truly goes on into putting on a show. So join me as I take a walk behind the Grand Curtain and see what it takes to go from script to stage. There is so much that goes into a show to make it ready to hit the stage. The process starts well in advance of the show's run. Once the show has been chosen and the script has been received, the first step is to put together a cast of actors. There are so many people, both young and old, who love to use their talents for the stage, whether acting is their career or just something to do in their free time. Many people audition for shows every year at the local level. Here at Sunset, the casting process happens months before the show hits the stage. And unlike professional theater, all the actors are volunteers who take the time out of their busy day to play and act in a show just because they enjoy the thrill of being on stage for a live performance. Some still have dreams to act on the main stages on Broadway, but most are just fine with staying right here with their local theaters and helping put on a production for the community. But don't be mistaken, because the time and effort they all put into a show to get the show ready for the stage is nothing to underestimate. Carol Dolphin is one of the many talented directors here at Sunset and has been directing for years. She should have some insight for us on how the auditions and casting process goes down. The process begins with a casting call to draw actors to audition for the show.
It's not necessarily terribly easy. I think the best way to find out is to, first of all, read anything that you happen to get on social media or even in the newspaper, or listen to friends, and to take a look at what are the theaters in the area and what are the shows that they're doing. Generally, the theaters will have a list of when the auditions are. Sometimes they will tell you who the characters are so you can get a better idea. Sometimes a script is available. But I think social media becomes a really good way to find out. And then getting your name on the mailing list or the text message list or the Facebook page. All of those things, then you begin to get the announcements. And once you start auditioning, you become more tuned into it and you automatically will get more information.
In order for actors to have a chance at getting cast in a show, they must prepare themselves for their audition.
I think the best thing you can do to increase your chances is to become familiar with the play. And that means reading the show. And most places will have a script that you can check out. They might ask for a small deposit so that they're sure to get those scripts back. But you will have that script then, so you can take a look at it. And when you come in, you can say, well, this is the role I'm really interested in, or I'm not interested in a particular role. So I think that's the best way to prepare. Every theater is a little bit different. Many places you have open auditions and you just go in, you'll be reading from the script. You go in at a time, let's say between 7 and 10. Whenever you show up, you're put on the list. You may be brought into a room with a whole lot of other people who are auditioning. You may be brought in alone or with 1 or 2 people. Other places, they may tell you to prepare a monologue, which when you're brand new is a little scary. And they will frequently say, bring us 2 monologues, one that gives us a serious side of your acting, one that gives you more of a comic side of your acting. If it's a musical, you're going to have to be prepared to sing as well. You might have to dance as well. And so if you come to the main auditions and the director wants to see you again, and maybe it's because she or he wants to see you acting with another person and see what the chemistry might be like there. Maybe it's because the director hasn't seen enough or heard enough. So callbacks are generally within a day or so after the open auditions.
You may ask yourself, how do the actors know they've been casted?
After the callbacks and after I've made my decision, I personally will notify, generally by phone, the people who have been cast. Once I have talked to everyone and everyone has accepted their roles, then the people who have not gotten cast are notified. Here at Sunset, it's by email. And then after that has happened, we will put a notification on social media generally that says, here is the cast of the show.
The casting process is so critical to the success of a show, as it allows the director to see what the actors who are trying out are truly capable of. After casting actors into every role, the next part of the process begins. And just like casting, it is so important and necessary to ensuring that the show is presented on the stage the way the director envisions it. Rehearsals are essential to creating a successful show. Without getting the cast together and running through lines, songs, choreography, and blocking, the show would just be standing around reading lines and singing some musical numbers. I know that I would never pay to see that, and so does the director. Giving the character their personality causes the audience to get sucked onto the stage and feel a part of the characters' lives. So without rehearsals, it would be pretty hard to put together a good show. Carl Miller is another talented director here at Sunset, and he's also one of the many actors who does shows here. He would have so much to tell me about the rehearsal process, so let's see if he'd be willing to speak with us. Maybe we'll even get the chance to talk to Tommy Lewick, yet another director who would know a lot about rehearsals as well.
And you essentially do the same thing you just did, yes?
And go!
Rehearsals are a cooperative process between the director, the stage manager, and the actors. The first rehearsal is typically viewed as a great way to get actors acclimated with the script and each other.
For me, when I direct, I like to ease into it. At first, I always like to I have silly questions that I ask. You know, I want to know quirky little things about the cast to loosen them up, you know, especially, you know, if there's a large group that doesn't know each other, you know, or, you know, there are already like little pods of people connecting. With kids, you mix them all up, you know, and I do the same thing with adults, you know, sit next to somebody that you don't know and start talking to them, just to kind of break the ice that way, you know, to get people comfortable with each other. And then it starts with, you know, instructions, my vision. I always have a vision board as a director where it could be just, you know, color ideas, you know, costume ideas. I put everything up so the actors know where I'm coming from, you know, and to see my ideas and my process, my thought process of how long I've been already thinking about this before the first rehearsal.
The first rehearsal day after you get it cast is the whole company read-through. And at the read-through, they'll fill out all their forms, all their safety forms, and then they're introduced to people and the staff who will be involved in production. Not only the director, the assistant director, the choreographer, if it's a musical, but then the lighting and sound designers and the props and costumes people, and you know, all different kinds of people who are involved in both technical side and the rehearsal side and the direction side. I think the most important part of that, at least in community theater, is knowing that we're all a team, that we all have the same goal. We're so happy that they're involved and that they chose to be involved, especially as an amateur community theater. And we really want, you know, it to be a wonderfully infectious, happy time. So that's really the first rehearsal. We read through the play, we listen to or sing through the music as much as we know. And surprisingly, a lot of people know what they're auditioning for. They've done the research and they've made the decisions to be there, so they might be familiar with the music. And that's really the whole thing. It's a little bit of a meet and greet. We'll give a tour of the building and we'll show them, and that's really the first rehearsal.
Directors like to give creative freedom at times to their actors to help them feel more comfortable with their characters.
I love it when actors give me suggestions, you know, and I always say, let's try it. If it works, we'll keep it. If it doesn't, we'll think of something else, you know. So I like to give them that freedom, you know, of, you have to, you know, because they're up there doing it. I'm not, you know. I'm just guiding. As a director, I'm guiding, you know. I'm creating what I think is going to be the best picture, you know, for an audience to enjoy.
I think it's a process that works differently with different people. You want to encourage their own discovery of that character along the way. And I always like to say, you know, please make big mistakes so that at least I know you're taking a risk and you're trying out some ideas. And I love big mistakes instead of tiny little ones, because then you know that they're really working hard toward a discovery. And if it's something that's really kind of yummy, then you want to encourage that. It's just easier to see, it's easier to explore. I want to encourage them to just feel free and safe to make those kinds of decisions. If it seems like they're just not getting it, I think it becomes more of a one-on-one situation. Some notes I'll give publicly, and then, you know, kind of like a parent or a teacher, then some things you say in private. And you might have smaller little conversations about character development with them one-on-one, so that they still feel safe and they still have that energy to try new things and see where it takes us.
It really is the director's final decision on what needs to happen on stage. You know, I want actors to create. I want them to go overboard. I ask for this. Go there, because it's easier to bring you down here. If you start here, totally impossible to get where we need to be.
While the process of preparing for a role varies from actor to actor, Carl shares how he prepares.
I research. I start with a lot of research. I dive deep. I'm one of those actors that love to do the research, you know, and look back on how the show originated, if it's a popular show that everybody knows, who played the roles before me, you know, in original productions. So I like to know what they did, how they approached it, the background of the whole show, what the director's process was, and how those actors actually worked. And then it, you know, evolves itself into, you know, me playing that character with other actors on stage, feeling everybody out in a way so we're all meshing together. So it really is, the beginning process is for me to understand it, and then the director helps mold, you know, where the character is going in every scene.
Actors will always be different from show to show, so knowing how to adapt to new people and personalities is key to acting in a show.
Well, I've been around forever. I've been doing theater in Milwaukee for over 45 years. I know a lot of people, so it's always fun, you know, to connect with people that I may have worked with in the past. I work in Milwaukee theater a lot, so I know a lot of people's names. And if I may not have worked with them before, I kind of know who they are and what they may have done just by word of mouth. You know, so it's always fun that way to get to know a cast, you know, individually. You know, I try my best, you know, as a person to talk to everybody as much as I can, you know, and that it's a community. We're an ensemble players, you know, so meeting new people is always fun, you know, because, you know, we all know something and some of us might not know something, so we can help each other that way, you know, on, you know, how to put this together.
Yes?
Rehearsals are key to creating a successful show. Just like anything else, theater takes time to come together and become a full cohesive show. Just like the old saying, practice makes perfect, theater requires practice to ensure that the actors know where to go, how to stand, how to dance, but most importantly, Practice ensures that no line gets skipped over. While rehearsals take place, however, there's always something going on to prepare for the next show. While actors can give personality to a character and draw the audience to connect with them, it's extremely hard to keep the audience engaged in the show if there's an empty stage. So at the time that the set is being built for the next show to hit the main stage, the set is the best way to keep the audience engaged in the show and give them a place to associate the show with. The interesting part of Sunset is that even though a set may be up on stage, the next set is already getting prepared to get on the stage as soon as the current show ends its run. Katie Johnson is a technical director here at Sunset and is in charge of designing the sets for the shows as well as overseeing all technical aspects of the shows. I wonder if we can find and talk to her about the set design and build process and all the sides of tech theater. To begin, the idea for a set is drawn up to help the set designer and the director know that they are on the same page.
So the first thing that I do is I get the script in my hand and I go ahead and do my own analysis of the script, look at what needs to be absolutely within the design in order to help the show come to life. And then after that, I take my initial ideas and I walk them through with the directors and ask them questions. Some directors can be extremely involved and some directors can actually be completely hands-off. So in order to go from what I call page to stage, that's how that process really begins. It's about reading the script, gathering information, and then going forward and turning it into 2D renderings, which I do up on my computer in my office. And then we solidify that and go forward with it, and then we begin the build process.
Volunteers are as just involved in the building and lighting of the set as the technical director is.
On average, I could work from about 100 to 150 volunteers per season. A lot of my volunteers are already repeat volunteers from previous technical directors and scenic designers here. New volunteers are really interesting because they kind of walk in the door and they don't really know what they're getting themselves into. But the best part about that is, as a new volunteer, 9 times out of 10, they're coming back. So it's really fun to see a new volunteer for me come in here and enjoy their time and then really want to come back the next week.
As with anything, there are always challenges that get in the way that need to be worked through to keep the process going.
Some of the challenges that we face is that sometimes things need to change for the ease of the actors or for the directors. Sometimes they need a couple of things to change mid-process. So those are definitely challenges that we face together as a shop, as a team. It's really important to have those open door discussions early on in the process so that we don't foresee any of those challenges coming to light. But we've had that where we've needed to change something extremely last minute because it was either a safety concern or it needed to just be done because it needed to be done for the show and it needed to be done right. So those can definitely be some of the challenges, is some late game additions or changes that need to be done. We know that sometimes during those times of mid-production reports or mid-production notes that we need to get, we usually have 3 production meetings. We always start one at the very beginning of the process, one in the middle, and then one towards the end of the process. That middle production meeting is time for those changes to really come to light. So that way it does give us some time and alleviates some of that stress and some of that pressure that we have when it comes to making those changes and making sure that those changes happen on time. So we understand the challenges and we know that there might be some changes that are coming down the pipe a little late and a little later than we expect them to, but it is just about pushing forward and doing what's right and what's best for the show.
Just as it is important to have a set built and ready, it must be lit to ensure that every piece of it is perceived as the director wants it to be.
Lighting design actually begins at conception. So once we hit that first production meeting, I usually have a design rendered and ready to go for the entire team. So we will discuss lighting when it comes to that very first production meeting, and that first production meeting could actually be months before the very first rehearsal for the show. So usually what I do is I will give our lighting designers a ground plan of the set with measurements, so that way they can start planning things in the air or in the sky, as we say, versus what I'm doing down on the ground. So actually,
Now that the set is ready, rehearsals are on the stage, and the show comes closer to Tech Week and opening night of the run. With so much preparation from the cast and crew to put the show on, the last piece of it all is ensuring that there will be an audience in the house to watch each and every performance. This requires a totally different team in order to execute this process. The front of house staff takes care of promoting the shows and selling tickets. The box office at Sunset is open 4 days a week and on show days 1 hour prior to the show. While the box office staff is typically paid, the rest of the front of house staff is comprised of volunteers. Front of house staff relies on community volunteers to staff usher positions for every performance. They take tickets, hand out programs, help people find their seats, and sell concessions before the show and during intermission. Brooke Olson is the production and volunteer manager here at Sunset. She takes care of making sure that volunteer opportunities are posted to help people know about and make sure that the front of house runs smoothly for show days. As a matter of fact, I think she's here now.
Just so that you know, who else to assist. At intermission, who would like to be the...
There are many roles and responsibilities that the front of house volunteers manage.
Our front of house staff is responsible for all of our volunteers that have signed up to be there on a performance night. They're also in charge of making sure that our patrons are in a safe place and making sure that they're getting into the theater and we're starting on time. They also run our concessions and our candy counter, and they make sure that we're safe for the rest of the evening. From the very beginning, we have to start selling tickets. So we have to build the program in our ticketing system for that show. People will purchase tickets, and on the night of, house managers come in, they stock our fridges for all of our concessions. They'll collect all the will call tickets for that night. They'll welcome all of our volunteers for the evening and give them like a spiel of what's going on for that show, what the show's about, how long it is, any special effects that are being used that people should know about. And then they open the house and they check all the tickets for folks to come in.
With volunteers being such a key part of the front of house operations, Sunset has a large network of community members who sign up year-round to help out.
We send out a volunteer newsletter, and we also advertise in newspapers and in the area. And then when people reach out to us saying that they're interested, I get them enrolled in our volunteer portal. And then it's a very easy process for them to sign up for shifts that they're available for. There's no minimum hour requirement for them to put in. It's whatever time they're willing to give us that will take them for where they come. We get about 100 to 200 volunteers every season that like to come for every single show. So they're kind of like subscribers in a way, where some volunteers will be like, I want to come volunteer for every single first Thursday of every furlong show, so that they return 8 times a year.
While working with volunteers brings a lot of good, especially for a not-for-profit playhouse like Sunset, there are still challenges that come with using
Really
volunteers.
hoping somebody wants to sell some candy. All of that.
You run into a lot of different personalities. We make sure that our house managers are good with managing people of different personalities, and then we use how they are and where they're comfortable at for where they are for the evening. So if a volunteer is very good at like talking with people, we may put them in concessions instead of making them like check tickets, because they don't get to like interact with the patrons. So we take all of their different personalities and assign them where they are best fit for.
It's crazy how much effort goes into the creation of one show. From the casting of a show, to rehearsals, to building the set, and all the way to the front of the house, there are so many people who help out along the way to make everything happen. Now, we've seen the process that gets us to show day, but what does a show day look like? Well, the process continues on to show day, so if you give me just one moment, I think I'll be able to get back in here to show you. So why don't we take a look? It's show day here at Sunset, which means the stage is set and the house is ready for patrons to fill the seats.
Okay.
As patrons enter the playhouse, they first present their ticket and are allowed in after an usher verifies the ticket is for the correct show and day. Patrons will typically get drinks and snacks before the show and during intermission, but after taking their seats, they can simply sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Patrons of local theater are usually dedicated to the playhouse that they see shows at, and typically will volunteer to usher for shows. So we took the opportunity to ask volunteers Sheila Schneider and Marcella Barazzini why they love and continue to support local theater.
I like supporting local theater because it gives me the opportunity to see a lot of really great performances. It's not always like professional actors, sometimes it's just the person down the street, but they do fabulous performances.
I like giving back to the community now that I'm completely retired, and I volunteer as an usher, and I think it's a lot of fun. You meet a lot of nice people, and you get to see all these great shows.
It's incredible to see the commitment that people have to local theater, and it makes such a difference for the theater when repeat customers choose to volunteer. Now that I've taken you from the script to the stage, it's time to wrap it all up and take a bow. I'm Matthew Zietlow, and this is From Script to Stage.
A picture of like how many. Downstage. That was his art.
I'm afraid there isn't a thing today.